Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on the PG Cert in Statistics. We'll just wait a few more minutes, as always, to let people log on to the webinar, and then we'll make a start. Okay, everyone. I think we'll make a start. I think people are still joining, but at a pretty slow rate now, so we'll make a beginning. So first of all, welcome and thank you for coming to hear something about this course. I hope you find this of interest and useful to you. In terms of how we're going to run this webinar, be relatively straightforward. In fact, I'm going to talk for at most 15 minutes about the program and some details about it. And then we'll open up to questions from all of you. There are several ways to ask me a question. One is there's a button on the menu at the bottom of your Zoom window, which says Q&A, and you can place a question in there, and then I'll answer those in order once I finish talking. I think you also ought to be able to raise your hand as well, and I can ask you to speak and ask me your question in that way. Okay, so without further ado, we'll start the presentation. No, maybe not. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so yes, so we're going to talk today about the Postgraduate Certificate in Statistics online version. My name is Simon Wilson, and I'm the course director for the program. So the first thing really to ask, of course, is this a course that it could be useful for you? So the first thing to say about it is that it's an introductory program in statistics. So it assumes very little prior knowledge of any sort of statistics. So it wouldn't really be suitable for someone who has already done, say, a program in statistics at university level, certainly. It's a part-time program, so it's not designed to occupy your entire week for the year. And then in terms of the sorts of people who typically come onto the course, and you may or may not be in one of these groups, if you're thinking that sort of knowledge of basic statistical methods and how to use them could be useful in your career, that's certainly one big group of students are joining the course for that reason. Another big group are researchers in the university, usually PhD students, and they think they'll need some statistical knowledge in their PhD research. So, for example, they might know that they'll have to do a survey at some point and analyze the results of that survey, or they have to do some other sort of experiment, say in the natural sciences, which will require some statistical analysis. So that's another group of people who would typically take this course. And a third group, which is becoming, I would say, a larger group, is people who are thinking about a career change into data science, which is sort of general term we use now for any career where the analysis of data is an important element. So here we might be thinking about people who already have maybe quite a numerate background, say from engineering or science, but they want to switch into data science. And this would be a start along that road, if you like, getting you up to speed on the basic statistical methods, allowing you to then go on to more advanced programs in statistics and other elements of data science. So those are typically the sort of people who will take this course. Oops. Okay, one thing that's happening this year is a big change, in fact, to the program, in that it's migrating to be a completely online program from this September. So, of course, with the pandemic, the program has had to convert to an online program since March of last year, but in a rather ad hoc way. I mean, we just had to sort of put together as best we could the program and offer it online. So from September, we're spending a lot of time now developing the content explicitly so that it's online and in some sense more professionally than we've been able to do up to now. So the course has been running for over 50 years now, and I would say this is really the biggest change we've made to it in all that time. To start off with, the course content will be very similar to what you might have seen on our webpage or in talking to students who've taken the program recently. So we're really keeping the content quite similar. We hope to update it and change it, of course, as we go along in the future, but it'll be broadly the same. And the key thing, of course, about an online program, there will be no need at all to go onto our campus in Dublin for any aspect of the course. So you can, in principle, be sitting anywhere in the world with a decent internet connection and take this program. I guess the advantages from the student point of view are that there's no need to go onto the campus. 2 evenings a week is what we've been doing up to now with the face-to-face version, so no need to do that, of course. And then somewhat greater flexibility in when you can study for the program. So you're not having to commit to coming into the campus 2 days a week, 2 evenings a week. You have a little flexibility in when you choose to study the content. I mean, the amount of content is broadly the same. It's just, I guess, it's a bit easier for you to plan when you can study it. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about how an online program works in case you haven't taken one before. And the way our program is going to work is there's a website you access through Trinity College using a system called Blackboard. And you log onto that site using your TCD username and password that you'll be given on registration, and you'll have access to a web page to do with this program. And then each week, a new set of material will be released onto that web page for the program for you to look through. The material consists of different things. It consists of maybe some reading, a video lecture, some homework, a quiz, that sort of thing. Near the end of the week, there'll be a live tutorial with TCD teaching staff, not unlike a Zoom call or something else, but again through this Blackboard system, where you can ask questions, go through the video lecture or the homework and things of that nature. Then the course is divided up into several modules, and each module is graded separately. And that module grade is determined through a mixture of homeworks, projects, and possibly take-home exams. where an exam will be published on the website at a certain time, and you have a certain amount of time then to complete it and upload your answer to the web page. Your overall course grade will then come from a weighted average of module marks. Okay, so there's supposed to be an image there which shows you what what the web page for a typical week session looks like. And that appears not to have come onto the system. So maybe I can quickly switch out of that for 1 second. So I was hoping to show you a image of what the web page looks like when okay okay, I might have to come back to that when we come to the question and answer session. I don't know quite what's happened there. Okay, so I'll say a little bit more about the what will happen is each week's session is divided up into several what we call elements. And each of those elements are broadly the same each week. So there'll be a short introductory video, maybe a minute or so, where the lecturer describes what the purpose of this week's material is. There might be some preparatory material, like some reading, read this article or read this or that, think about this or that issue. Then there's the main part of the session, which is a video lecture. So this will typically be a presentation with a voiceover, which you can, of course, look at and go through. Following that, there will be some maybe homework or a quiz to see if you've understood the material, that kind of thing. And then finally, there'll be what we call the extend element, which is somewhat optional, and it has additional material about the topic of that week's session if you're interested in reading it to get sort of further detail. So that will occur each week, and then, as I said, the idea is you go through that material, and then there's the weekly online live session with the lecturer. Okay, so here's the program by semester. So in the first semester, from September to December, each semester in Trinity College is 12 weeks. There are 2 modules in the first semester. First is an introduction module. So this really goes through an overview, really, of what statistical methods are and what they're supposed to be doing, and then introduces you to the most common types of statistical methods that we use. Then there's another module, a smaller module in the first semester, implementing statistical methods in R. So R is the name given to a statistical computing software, and it's this software that we're going to use in this program. R is open source, so it's completely free to download and use. And honestly, that's the main reason we're making use of it in this program. It's a programming language, so it does require you to write sort of commands within the R system to implement different analyses. But anyway, we'll go through that and show you how the methods you've learned in the first module can be implemented and interpreted using this R software. So that's the first semester. In the second semester, we have a module on regression. So regression is one of the most important sets of statistical techniques. So we spend quite a long time in the second semester looking at regression. What is it? How do we use it? How do we interpret the results from a regression analysis and so on? And then we'll also have a smaller module on experimental design. So experimental design is essentially the statistical techniques we use to design experiments to collect data in a reasonable and systematic way. So between the 12 weeks of a semester, those weeks are divided up in proportion to the credits. So 10 credit module will typically be 8 of those weeks, and a 5 credit module will typically be 4 of those weeks in length. For next year, there are no elective modules, so the program is completely fixed, and this is what you have to take. We are planning to introduce some elective modules for the second semester in a year's time, so you'll have a little bit of choice in semester 2 as to what you do. So postgraduate certificate is 30 credits in total, so okay, so we satisfy that requirement. Okay, what do you need to get into the program? So entrance requirements are a first degree in any subject. So we really don't care what that first subject is. It doesn't have to have any relationship to statistics whatsoever. It's just that you have that first degree. You also have to demonstrate some knowledge of mathematics. And what we're getting at here is that in this program, we try to keep the level of mathematics to as low a technical level as we can. But statistics fundamentally is a set of mathematical methods, so there is a requirement to know and use some level of mathematics to successfully use statistical techniques. So we certainly don't require you to have a degree in mathematics or anything like that. If you're in Ireland, then something like Leaving Cert Maths will be more than sufficient. If you're coming from the UK, A-level maths, again, would be more than sufficient. And from other parts of the world, any sort of high school level qualification that demonstrates you've done some mathematics to a reasonably good level at high school will be all we're looking for, and that will be all you need. Really, the sort of maths we end up using are basic calculus, some differentiation and integration, and also some manipulation of matrices is the main things we use. And also we would tend to use some mathematical notation that, again, you would come across if you had done Leaving Cert or A-level or equivalent maths at high school level. So those are the things we look for. An additional requirement, actually, which is not here listed here, would be the college's English language requirement. That has not been in place so far because the program was taking place physically in Dublin, and because a cert was not a sufficiently large course to get a visa to come to study in Ireland, we did not have a language requirement. But now that in principle one can study anywhere in the world, this program, if English is not your first language, there will be the standard Trinity College English language requirement. And we have a link to, you can see what that is later on. I'm going to supply a link to that. Okay, how to apply. So Trinity has an online course application system. So you apply through that. And I give the web address there for the program. The application deadline is usually 31st of July. So we have another 2 months roughly, a bit less. But please check the course program website. What we are very happy to do, and often happens, is that if we still see a good stream of applications coming in towards the end of July, and we haven't filled up the quota of the program, we'll just extend the deadline by another couple of weeks or so. But for now, assume 31st of July is when you have to get your application in. Fees, actually, so since I wrote this slide, the fees are really now set in stone. So the fees are €3,000 for an EU student and €7,000 for a non-EU student. Now, there are some issues, some things to note about that. One is that eligibility for the EU fee is not based on whether you have an EU passport or not. It's actually based on whether you've been working or studying in the EU within the recent past. So again, there's a link to a web page there, a Trinity web page, which explains exactly the criteria for getting this lower EU fee. So yeah. I must admit, I'm not entirely clear what's happening to our UK colleagues with regard to the eligibility. I believe the college is, actually, I think the college is yeah, for the purposes of this fee, nothing really much has changed so far with regard to UK. So again, if you have residency in Ireland, you will be eligible for the, if you have residency within the EU rather, then you would have, you would be eligible for this fee. And I think the college for the minute is assuming UK it still applies, that eligibility still applies. But that's a complication. Okay, we have a course website, and the link is given there, which contains all the information that I've talked about here, as well as a bit more detail on things like the modules. So I've just really given you the title of each of the 4 modules in the program. Through the website, you have access to more details on what they actually are. I'm very happy to answer questions by email, so you can see the email address there. Please email me and I will try to answer any queries that you have. Okay, so that concludes the presentation. So what I might do now is just go to the Q&A and answer the questions that have been posted there, and then open up the floor to anyone who wants to ask me a question in person. And we'll see how many questions we get. So so I think the first question from Joanna Tuffy, that we've actually answered that. Yeah, so we're using R as the programming language for the course. Up to now, we've been using something called SPSS and Minitab, both of which are commercial softwares. We moved to R because with the online nature of the program, having an open source software was you had a lot of advantages. What we're planning to do is in the R module, we will give pointers to information about how to implement the methods we're discussing in SPS and or Minitab as well, if those are the platforms that you're using in your job, for example. So someone else is asking, I've registered for this course in 2017 but couldn't sit the exam. Can I re-register for this course? Oh boy, good question. It rather depends on the reasons for which you didn't sit the exam. So if you've been given permission to repeat the course, then I don't see any problem in coming back. But you'd have to have been given permission to repeat the course. So if the reason you didn't sit the exam was for some extenuating circumstance, like a medical reason or so on, then typically you'd be given permission just to repeat the year. Perhaps you can send me more details of that and I can get a definitive answer for you. So next question, if you do a PhD with modular requirements and want to get the certificate, presumably you cannot double count ECTS credits for both. That's right, yeah, so you can't. So if you get the cert, that's credits for the cert and you can't count them towards your PhD as well, unfortunately, so you can't sort of double count them. Can we apply for this course via Springboard HCI? Again, very good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what Springboard offers by way of being able to apply for programs. Perhaps again, that's a question you can email me separately, and I can then go off and try and find out more information. What are the use cases of experimental design? Okay, so if you're designing an experiment in the physical sciences or the social sciences where you're trying to discover certain relationships between things, you really ought to be looking at experimental design methods. So essentially, experimental design methods make sure that the data you collect are able to answer the sorts of questions you want about them. So really, I would say any situation where you have to go away and specify how your data is going to be collected, you're going to use these methods. So I mean, the classic example would be in medicine, randomized controlled trials for a drug, and you want to know things like, well, does the drug efficacy change with age? Does it change with gender? Does it change with other things? All that information you would use through the methods of experimental design to tell you how many subjects of each age or gender or whatever it happens to be you need to have on your study in order to successfully answer those questions. So the question, academically, what could you do in TCD after the program? Right, so that speaks actually to so the broader plans we have with this program. So from 22-23, we'll extend the program to a PG diploma, which is a 60 credit course as opposed to a 30 credit course. And with that 60 credit course, the idea is that you would be in a position to study a technical master's in statistics or data science. So in some sense, this is the start of a process of getting to that point of being able to take a proper technical master's in those subjects. If your background is not really in statistics or data science at all so far. So I think the cert by itself is probably not enough. Well, it's definitely not enough, for example, really to go on to do a PhD, let's say, in statistics, and probably not enough either for a master's, depending on how technical that master's was. But if you get to the diploma, you would be in good shape. So someone asks, what are the most common next steps upon completion of the PG cert? Are there some follow-on courses? So yeah, so I guess I've sort of half answered that question. Our plan is to have a diploma in place for 22-23 that you could step into after completing this program. So the cert would be the first 30 credits of the 60 credit diploma, if you like. So by doing the cert, you're kind of halfway through completing the diploma. So you could stay on for another year and get the diploma. The most recent TCD fee seemed to have set the fees at 3941. Yeah, so what's happened is that is the fee that Trinity set for the old version of the program, and it just sort of automatically rolled that over prior to this online version being formally accepted as a program in the college. So that old version of the program is no longer running, and the new version is now in place with the fee of 3,000. The fee is less than the face-to-face version for the simple fact that because you're not coming onto campus, of course, you're not then able to take advantage of campus facilities like the library and so on in the same way. So the fee is trying to reflect that. By the way the application system is set up at the minute, when you apply, you may well be technically applying to the old program because the new program has not been set up on the application system yet. But of course, any application would just be migrated to this new program automatically. So that should work seamlessly. As someone asks, how many times can we pay the EU fee? So I think what you mean there is, can you pay that fee in installments rather than just €3,000 up front? So there certainly is a mechanism at undergraduate level to pay the fee in 2 installments, one in September and one typically in January. And I assume that is available to postgraduate students as well, although we'd have to check through the university fees website to make sure. If that's the case, it's usually half and half, so 1,500, 1,500. Hi, thank you for, are the fees for this program still waived if you are an MD candidate? Right, so one thing I didn't mention was that a large cohort of the students on this program and maybe attending this webinar are existing TCD students, usually PhD students. And if you are currently registered for another TCD program, then the fee is waived for this program. So you do it for free, yeah, because you're already paying a probably fairly substantial fee for the other program. And I assume that extends, I mean, although most of our students in that position are PhD students, that must extend to all other registered TCD students. So I think that answers the next question as well about whether PhD students at Trinity need to pay the fee. So you don't, there's no fee. Does this course suit medical professionals? Good question. I would say that if you're in a position where data analysis is important for you, whether that's in your research or some other aspect of the job, and you want to understand what people are doing when they analyze data and the pitfalls of doing so and so on, then this course could well be of interest. I mean, it'll get you to the point where you ought to be able to understand and implement, the most common statistical methods that we use across many fields, including medicine. Any idea of the electives in 22-23? So they're still not set in stone, but I think probably there'll be one in time series analysis. So that's data that's sort of sequences of data in time, like, I don't know, monthly unemployment data or monthly sales of tomatoes, I don't know what, yeah, that kind of thing. So there'll almost certainly be a module in time series. And then I suspect the other one will be in what we call linear models. So that's really going on from the regression module and going into more advanced regression methods that now are very commonly used across many fields of medicine, science, engineering. So those are probably what the electives are going to be, but they're not set in stone yet. Okay, someone else was asking about the fee for current TCD students. So again, that fee is zero. I should have mentioned that in the presentation. So next question, I have an MSc and would have completed stats and research methods up to this level. I wondering if this PG cert is up to appropriate level. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy if you want to email me sort of details of the courses that you took on stats. I can probably tell you pretty quickly whether you would learn anything new from this. On first reading of that, I would say that there's probably not much in this program that would be new to you, but certainly email me your what you did, and I can confirm that. Yeah. So someone else commenting, I had a look on Springboard for stats courses and did not find it. Yeah, I'm actually not terribly familiar with what's happening on Springboard at the moment, but I would say apply through the TCD, the standard TCD online application system is probably the way to go. So the next person asks, is there a particular philosophy, Bayesian versus Frequentist? Oh my goodness. So yeah, so this program, I suppose, is primarily Frequentist statistics, in fact, exclusively, since those are still the most common techniques that we use. So we really don't have much to say about Bayesian, unfortunately. I guess we will leave that for more advanced statistics courses. Someone else asked about, I only have a upper second class, so that, yeah, that's not a problem. We don't have any actual requirement on the class of the degree. You just have to have an honours degree. What's the anticipated time commitment? So, I mean, as a 30 credit course is, strictly speaking, maybe sort of 15 to 20 hours a week, including the time that you are looking at presentations and so on. I mean, in the face-to-face version, it was sort of 2 evenings a week for 3 hours plus homeworks and assignments and so on. So you probably got up to, I think most students probably were, doing 2 evenings a week and then, maybe 1 day at the weekend or something like that. So, I mean, it's a reasonably substantial commitment of time, but it's certainly not full-time. Someone else asking, I don't have knowledge of programming like R, is this necessary? No, so we're assuming in the R module that no one has any prior knowledge of R and doesn't even have it installed on their computer. So in fact, the first session of that module on R will be how to install R onto your laptop. So we're really assuming no prior knowledge. Can we attend TCD library? Now, that is an interesting question for if you're registered for an online program. I don't see why not. If you're in Dublin, you can't enter the library. I mean, for new students, there is a process for getting access to the library, even with a TCD ID card. You have to go and sign a declaration that you won't damage the books and all that kind of thing. So I would imagine as long as one can do that, there should be no problem. I mean, if you get a Trinity ID, then yeah, I don't see why that will be a problem. After completion of this program, graduation will happen physically or online. So again, I assume you can do this graduation physically. Actually, hadn't that was one of those questions I hadn't really got to in the rush to create this program in the first place. But I don't see why you wouldn't be able to physically attend a commencement um, uh, ceremony, having completed this program. Is there an application fee? Also, if you've been resident and working with stamp one, am I eligible for the U fee? So I think there is a fee associated with application to the program, but I actually don't know how much it is. But yeah, I think there is some sort of application fee associated with it. At some point in the application process, they'll ask you for the fee. I don't think it's a huge sum of money. Yeah, regarding the next question, it really is one to look on the fees website. The rough rule, and this is very approximate, is that if you've been working or studying in the European Union legitimately for something like 3 or 4 of the last 5 years, the exact number I'm not clear on, then you're eligible for the EU fee. And I don't think it goes much beyond that, but I would absolutely refer you to the Trinity website on this matter to get an exact definition. Okay, someone else asking about the Trinity PhD students. Yes, so there's no fee for those. Next question. I'm a pharmacist wishing to extend learning. Yeah, so I think this program, we certainly have students from pharmaceutical industry attend this program all the time. So I would say this is certainly a program that you might find useful, at least allowing you to understand a little bit more about how data are analyzed and to reach a particular conclusion. So next question, I have a high certificate, level 6 from abroad, plus work experience in IT. Can I be accepted by this course? Okay, so I suppose the answer to that is strictly no. But if, for example, you can provide evidence of a reasonable background in mathematics, I think we can consider the case. But I suppose strictly speaking, the answer is no. We require a bachelor's degree, which I think is level 7, if I remember rightly. So last question I have so far, what can you do job-wise after this course? Yeah, so I would say that most people taking this program are already in employment and they're just seeking to get an extra set of skills that will allow them to advance their career further. But equally, I think these skills are becoming more and more important, and I'd like to think that having them would increase your employability across a wide range of careers. I mean, we often have people in careers such as pharmaceutical industry, as I've mentioned, civil service, so the federal government, if you like, particularly in places like finance, agriculture, Department of Health, where data are important. Also things like advertising industry, sort of analysis of surveys, quality control engineers, safety engineers, all these sorts of things. What sort of areas I think are where this course can just give you that extra edge in terms of skills to either start off your career or advance it. So next question, I believe I've covered a lot of these topics in computer science. Would this course be worth doing? Yeah, so that's, yeah, I mean, it's possible you wouldn't get much extra out of it that you haven't already done. So it's not clear that it would be worth doing, and perhaps you're better off if you're really interested in this area in seeking out a more advanced program like a master's. Um, um, I mean, we do have people who take this course, just out of interest. I mean, not particularly that they're looking to advance their career and so on in it. So, that might be another reason to take it. Okay. I think I got to the end of the questions there. Are there any more questions from anybody that I think we actually covered quite a bit of ground over there in the questions that I didn't put into the presentation. So certainly follow up with me by email if I've asked you to, or even if I haven't, with anything else that you'd like to know about the program. Okay, I think that's all that everyone wants to ask. So with that, I think we can probably close proceedings. So once again, thank you for coming along to learn about this program. As I said, you'll be if you decide to take it, you'll be the first group to do this online version of it. So to some extent, you'll be guinea pigs as we iron out any little issues with it. But I think I think this program is very well suited to online, so I'm very excited that we've been able to do this, and I look forward to welcoming you on the program.